the staff at Sanford Health were phenomenal. I remember getting there initially, and there were 20 people in the room to take care of me right away. Um, Waking up in the ICU, there was always someone right there if I needed anything to get, water. Um, the cleaning people were amazing. I know there was one woman that had been cleaning my room in the ICU and had cleaned a bunch of the rooms in the ICU that every time she would pass my room, she would stop and she would pray. And she told Madison about this and she told my mom about this. And, every day, every time she walked by, she would do it. And 2 weeks later, when I was up on the 8th floor, I think she had taken a shift or done something to where she was cleaning up on the 8th floor. And she saw that there was an officer outside my room. And she knocked and she came in, she was talking to me and she told me, she's like, yep, I prayed for you every day. Still pray for you every night. I'll continue to do it. And, that's just kind of the caliber of people that work there, that take care of our loved ones, and that took care of myself and Officer Dotis that day. And it was phenomenal to feel so welcomed and so loved consistently by everyone there. All the nurses were amazing. They walked us through every step of the process that we would need. The PT pushing me to stand and walk, and the OT helping with everything where, I had to learn how to do everything with my left hand for a little while because I couldn't use my right arm. And so being able to kind of push me and make me better while in the hospital and make me feel comfortable and taken care of was amazing. I'm not one to ask for help. I'm the one that likes to help people. It's, why we get into the job. We want to help people. But, it was forced onto me having to have someone care for me. And the fact that they wanted to do it made the difference. It wasn't just a job for them, just like it's not a job to be a police officer for us. It's a calling for them to go out and help people. The flight medics stabilizing us, the ambulance drivers coming and seeing us, the firefighters coming in, while shots are still going off on scene, coming in to help us, where all of those other personnel that are first responders and medical personnel that truly do care about helping people do it because they want to. They don't do it because they're in it for the paycheck or the pension or whatever other reason you can give. They do it because they want to help, and I'm very grateful that they wanted to help us. I think the support that we got is incredibly unique to Fargo. It's something we talked about a lot where, I don't know if we would have gotten the same support in other states, other towns, where everyone in Fargo, it's a big town that feels like a small town. Everyone knows everyone. There's, if you talk to one person, they know someone that you're related to or that, you go out and get drinks with or go to dinner with. And it's something that is very unique to the feel of Fargo, and you feel it instantly whenever you work there or go out to dinner. You feel that you're welcomed consistently. And I love that about Fargo, and that's why I like to stay.
Going through such a traumatic event, having the support from not only the community, but especially the staff at Sanford, it was overwhelming, but in a really amazing way. My priority had always been, what can I do to help Ty? But then realizing that I also needed to take care of myself, that was a bit of an eye-opener. And it took the nurses coming in and talking to me, and it happened to be one day when Ty had to go down into surgery. They helped me get the support that I needed there.
Andrew and I did grow very close throughout PTO, and it's something that happens with every recruit and every trainer where you aren't friends, and every recruit gets this speech where I'm not going to be your friend, but I'll be friendly with you. And going to calls day in and day out, you go to, anywhere from 7 to 20 calls in a day. Every call, their life is dependent on you. Your life is dependent on them, no matter what you're doing. And, having that support consistently from him, where I was only 3 days into training with Andrew. And it was a very quick 3 days where all of a sudden worst day of our life happened. And after that, we needed our families. And we needed people to support us. My entire family came up to the hospital. A lot of his family came up to the hospital, and they grew very close. And I can't really speak to a ton of it because I was kind of bound in my bed and bound in my room. But I know that I interacted with his parents quite a bit. Got to see AJ a few times. Got to get to know Hannah a little bit more. And his parents would visit me every once in a while when they came up. And the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree with them. Anyone that knows Andrew knows that he's just the most happy and loving person that you could be. And his parents are the same way. They're incredibly happy. They're always smiling. They're always positive. Where I really appreciated that with having Andrew and Andrew's family and my family get to know each other and have that mutual support with each other.
Just spot on with how welcoming the Dotis family truly is, and just how quickly we were all able to just get so close to one another. As sad as it is, we're very fortunate to have gone through something so awful together. That way we're able to lean on one another through the whole event, the whole process with like the initial phone call, the first few days in the hospital, and then everything else that has gone on after with the going home, the recovery process, all of that. Because not only are we going through everything step by step, but we can also celebrate the small successes together with people who truly know what it's like to go through something like this. Because not many people truly know what that's like. So having somebody else there to go through these experiences with you, it helps a lot to be able to bond over something like that and become really good friends.
So Andrew and I did write a couple of messages back and forth where I had started it. I was, finally walking, I was getting up, and there was one day Andrew was out of his room for, I think, therapy or surgery. And I, every day that he walked, I was very happy for him, but it bugged me because he beat me to it. And just like most people, I'm pretty competitive, so was he. But every day he would walk past my room, he would knock, he would say hi, and he'd always greet me with a smile. And so, the day that I was walking, I'd gone by his room, I was doing some more therapy, and I decided to go in there and just write a message, say hi to him, because I didn't get to say hi to him, while he was in his room. I came back from a surgery one day, and there was a message on my board from Andrew, and it made me very happy. I was sad to see that I didn't get to say hi to him in person, but it was awesome to be able to, have that message. And every day I would look at it. Nurses, I wouldn't let them touch it. That stayed up until 24th day I was there, and we left. So it was really important to have that support from that side of it. The recovery process is definitely tough. You don't get back up after a day or two after this happens. It's not a flu. But having those good days, it was really important to us where, there wasn't a day that felt like a bad day to us because we had someone else going through it with us. And, for Andrew, it seemed like every day was a good day with him where he'd come in and tell me he's doing great, or, even if it wasn't a great day, he'd tell me, he's like, well, there's always tomorrow. I'll have a good day tomorrow. We'll keep getting good news. We'll be okay. And it was never I with him. It was always we. we'll be good. We'll keep going. We'll keep moving. We'll get out of here. We'll get back to the streets. And with Andrew, it's not about him. And I always felt that where, I was encouraged. I was encouraged by him walking. My goal when I first started walking again was, we started with standing, and standing hurt. Standing was difficult. It's like learn how to ride a bike again. It's going to hurt, but, day or two of that, the next week comes and my PT wants me to walk. I'd walk into the door and back, and that's about as far as I got. So I was going 25 feet, if that. And that day, I decided, I want to go by Andrew's room. Andrew was on the other side of the 8th floor. So I told my PT this, and do you think I can go? She goes, well, we'll bring a chair just in case. And I was determined to get there. So I took my little half walker with me and made it 250 feet to Andrew's door. I was standing when I saw him. And it was one of those things that I think encouraged both of us to know that we always have a goal. There's always a goal to, whether it's get to Andrew's room or, just get to the lobby where we got to see all of our family together. And, there's a lot of things that we got to experience together that I'll cherish just because of how close and how loving everyone was when it came to the support of, the recovery process. And by no means was it easy, but it was very difficult to learn how to walk again, to learn how to use my right hand again. But it was a lot easier knowing I had someone that was in my corner.
Andrew's positivity is just absolutely contagious. He walks in and just lights up the room. And so having that type of support and positivity definitely impacted Tyler's recovery simply because they could feed off of each other. Like he mentioned with the walking and getting a little jealous, maybe a little competitive, but it went the other way too. There were times where we saw that Tyler was succeeding or doing really well during the recovery process, and that also encouraged Andrew to do, a little bit better with whatever his focus was on during that time. So it was definitely needed. I don't think we would see the success in the two of them if they weren't constantly bettering each other and supporting one another through the whole process.
In the hospital, within the 24 days that I was there, the first 3 days I had 6 surgeries. After that, I had another 8. I had 14 surgeries in total in 24 days, which is a lot on the body. It's a lot of missed breakfasts, which I was not thrilled about. But, it's something that you kind of have to go through. And, when I was released, I still had 2 to 3 appointments a week. I was going to Fargo. I was homebound for about a month where I had to have a nurse in the house every day to come and, make sure everything was okay. And, just being released from the hospital wasn't the end of it for me. And, I've had another surgery since leaving. I'll have another one in a couple of weeks that, that'll bring my total up to 16. And, we're hoping that that's the last one, but, medically that doesn't stop there. Physical therapy for months, occupational therapy to get the use of my hand back, and just physically getting back to as normal as I can be, where, you want to be able to do the things, you want to be able to cook, use a knife, and, it's something that's important to me, where I love to cook. That's something that I cook dinner. I cook the Thanksgiving turkey every year, and it's something I'm really excited about this year that, I was able to get to a point where, I will be able to do it again, and I love doing it. And it's just, it's not something that stops when you leave. it's something that, I will live with the rest of my life every single day. I'll have reminders on my body of that day. And it's something that you go through that it's not easy, but it's something that's worth fighting for because it's my life. If I want it to be as long as healthy as I want it as it can be, I need to keep going. And there's no pushing past, there's no gritting your teeth and toughing it out. It sucks sometimes, and you just got to deal with it. I think moving forward with the families, I was very honest about what I wanted to do in my life. I was very honest that I wanted to do this job. And, for me growing up where I did, I didn't grow up in a law enforcement household. I grew up and, my brother went into the military when I was 6. He's been in for 16 years, I think it'll be now. And so, he was in danger when he was deployed. Outside of that, we never really worried much. When it comes to law enforcement, we're in danger every day, every call. And so, my mom works with law enforcement doing retirement stuff. And so she sees the worst of it when it comes to disability stuff. And it scared her a lot. And so going into it where, we have an understanding, the holidays were always special, the ones that I could make it to. I think moving forward, in terms of changing the holidays, nothing really changes. There's an appreciation that, I'm here and I'm walking, that, I made it through. But there's also an understanding of, we appreciated the holiday every time it came around anyways. We love seeing each other, we love going to family stuff, going to a volleyball game tonight, going to football tomorrow. It's just, with our family, nothing really changes just because there's so much love and caring there already that we appreciate every day that we can see each other anyways. Going into the job, you do understand that there's, dangerous calls you go to. There's armed robberies or stabbings or, active shooters that do happen and can happen. But you prepare for stuff like that. We train all the time for stuff like that. We know how to handle that. This call wasn't that. This call was kind of a cluster, We don't, I expected to go handle a crash. Andrew was there to make sure I did everything right. He was there to make sure everything was within policy and procedure and that everything was handled. It came in as an injury accident, and, my goal getting there was make sure everyone's okay. Fire beat me to the scene. They were already checking people out. I had talked with Carly, one of the occupants of the vehicle, and I'd asked her if she was okay because she was bleeding a little bit, and she was okay, but she was really shaken up. It's always tough to be in an accident, and for us, we always talk about how we don't want to treat a call as routine, and sadly that happens where calls do become routine, and we have the things that we always have to check off. Whether it's an assault or a car accident or something as minor as, a public assist where someone just has a question. Those calls can become routine, but, something like this it'll heighten your awareness for a while. But no, we don't, we expect to be injured or hurt or killed and, knowing that the fight's there. We go to the fight. That's what we do. And, that's where we expect to be hurt. We don't expect to be hurt like this, and it's one of those things that, I've talked to a lot of guys about this where, you always talk about the police funeral, and, the public often sees us as invincible. It's, we can't get hurt. If we get hurt, we're back on the street the next day because that's what they see in all the cop shows. In reality, that's not how it is. People get hurt and they're out because you're human behind the badge. We take injuries the same way everyone else does. And so, you always talk about cops getting shot and dying. It's very seldom talked about cops getting shot and living. And so going through that process is difficult because there's no procedure to it. And that's how we do things, is like there's a procedure we follow for everything. Most of the stuff we handle, there is step-by-step process that, as long as we check off this stuff, we'll be okay. There's no playbook for this one. There's, just dealing with it. And so, that changes the conversation with family, where, it's not just going into these scenes that, I could get hurt or I could die. Now it's, this makes it more real. This makes it more, it gives more of an impact to what we do, where, like, truly no call is routine. I know they looked at my body cam and Andrew's and had talked about Andrew making me wear that vest. And Andrew and I have joked about that, where, it was like traffic was heavy, follow policy, keep doing that. And, Andrew was relaxed and so was I, because this is a call that we've both seen plenty. We're still going to give the same attention to it, but it's something that we've dealt with. We were waiting for a tow truck and we were getting witness statements. And that was kind of the remainder of that call. We would have been on scene for another 20 minutes. And so it's tough to think about it because it was so random and we weren't expecting a fight that day. We were not expecting to be shot while on a traffic stop while we weren't looking. And so, that fight's there. But we didn't know we were going into a fight.
As spouses, we do something like really similar, where you prepare for the worst, but you pray that it never happens. And I think that this incident, what it does is it truly shows the magnitude of what happened, what these men and women do every day. But also, as Tyler mentioned, you walked into a fight not knowing it was going to be a fight, and you truly stopped something terrible that day. So that morning of the incident it was a normal morning. Ty got up way too early, in my opinion, to go to work, kiss me goodbye, we'll see you later. And then I just went about my day. I was going to my sister's basketball tournament that afternoon in Morris, which is about a 2-hour drive from Fargo. And their basketball game, they were maybe 5 minutes into the first half when my phone was ringing. And I saw it was coming from Ty's cell phone, and I thought, that's weird. And I looked at the time and thought, well, it's getting close to the end of his shift. Like, maybe he has a report that's going to take him a little longer, and he just wanted to let me know he was going to be late. And when I answered it, it wasn't Ty on the phone. Somebody else had grabbed his phone and called me from the scene of the incident as everything is going on. And I actually didn't believe them at first when they told me what was happening. I said, "You're joking, this can't be real." And he said, "No, this is real. You need to get here as quick as you can." So I got off the phone, went and grabbed my mom, and she could tell as I walked into the gym that something was up and we needed to leave. I didn't want to worry anybody, so I said, we just come out in the hallway with me, just because all of my friends are there, my sister's teammates and their parents, and I actually worked in that area for a little bit, so I knew a lot of people in the gym that day. So we got out into the hallway and I said to my mom, I don't know anything, but we need to get to Fargo. Something happened and Ty's hurt, we gotta go. So she handed me the keys. She went and told my dad. We got in the truck and away we went. It was the most surreal time. It felt like it was taking years to get to Fargo, but I blinked and we were already there. There were times where we were laughing and talking and like kind of cracking jokes just about everything. My sister wasn't having a really good game and we were kind of joking about that, and a moment later we were thinking, wow, like this is really happening. Like we talk about this being the worst day. It truly was. I remember everything about that day. I remember commenting about the traffic on the way there and how it just seemed, I expected more cars, truly. Like I thought there was gonna be more traffic. Getting to the hospital, I didn't know where to go or what to do. We walk in and we realized my ID is actually in Ty's wallet. They wouldn't let me in. Like just the most bizarre things. I remember while we were in the car on the way to Fargo, news had gotten out that there had been an incident, and like all law enforcement families, you start calling and texting to see, hey, is he okay? And I didn't know what to say because I didn't know. My mom was in a similar boat where family didn't want to necessarily reach out to me, so she had to make that decision too. We're very fortunate to have family that is so supportive and so caring and so loving. But that comes with a lot of weight too sometimes. Making those phone calls, it's hard. It was the most moving time. I didn't get to see Ty until late that night. I had been getting updates from the surgeons all the entire time that we were there. I'm eternally grateful for all of the support and the staff, the medics who came in when we had first arrived at Sanford. She had come into the room and said that, you know, I was there with him in the ambulance, and I asked if there was anything that he wanted me to tell anybody, and he said, you tell my wife I love her and I love what I do. And then when Dr. Corderis came into the room a little while later to give me an update on how Tyler was doing during surgery, she had to tell me that this was probably the first time somebody had cracked a joke in the elevator on the way to surgery. So I can attest that story is true. That night, when he was finally out of surgery and in his room in the ICU, it was probably one of the worst moments seeing him in such a vulnerable state. But it was also amazing to know that he was still there. Having those moments together, even though I know you don't remember it, it was probably one of the more important moments. You know, that first time, all of these firsts, there are so many firsts when you go through something like this. The first time that You get to see him the first time that he opens his eyes, first time that he talks, all of these firsts. That's something that's not talked about a lot because you don't realize how important those moments are until you're living through something like this. I remember, so that first night was terrible because the whole thing is, it's such a surreal time because you don't realize how time passes when you're in the hospital. It goes by so quickly, but at the same time, it drags on for years. But that first night was particularly tough just because there was so much unknown. We didn't know anything regarding the incident, let alone like how everybody was doing after all of this. But there were definitely signs that, Tyler, he was still there, even though he was sleeping. His blood pressure would spike when his favorite song would play, and it was like, he's still there. He's still there. Over time, he started to wake up, and that was when we really knew. You'd wink at me and smile, and that night, he's a talker, if you can't tell. Ty's the chatty one of the two of us, and that was really hard when he was on the ventilator because there was so much that he wanted to say but couldn't. So trying to figure out how to write left-handed was a challenge. And I could tell there was something he wanted to say to everybody in the room, not just me. And so we grabbed a notebook and a pencil, and he wrote, "Love you all." And I think that speaks to his character as well, not just thinking of himself, but the other people in the room. One of the first things that Ty said to me was, after he got the breathing tube out, was, "Hey, so I got shot." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Maybe don't do that one again." That was one of the first things that he said. And then he said, "I'm so sorry." Right? I'm so sorry. I'm okay. You focus on you. But, yeah. You like to crack jokes? Yeah, that was another thing. He likes to crack a lot of jokes. So.
Not always funny.
No, not always funny.
I'll take them.
But jokes nonetheless.
Yep. Waking up in the hospital, I couldn't do anything. I had to be taken care of. I had to be helped. And, at home, I'm the one that cooks. I'm the one that does the dishes just because she doesn't want to do them. But generally I'm the one that will, do all the driving and do all that stuff. And, waking up not being able to and just not knowing the extent of what was going on with me. The roles definitely changed between, Madison and I, where she was taking care of me and everything I needed, whether it was water or, the lieutenant from West Fargo finding me a fan because I was hot. But, it was Maddie every day, every second that I was there. We were there for 24 days and, it was we. She slept in my hospital room with me for 24 days straight. And those hospital beds aren't comfy. I don't know how she did it, but, it was just a testament to, how she wanted to support me and how she wanted to be there. And I was very grateful to have someone. I had to push her out of the room a few times because she wouldn't, take care of herself, and she was worried about me and she was too worried about me. But, she was doing it because she loves me, and she wants to see me get better. She wanted to push me to be better, and it was very helpful, and I couldn't have gotten through the process without her. I do remember everything from the day of the incident until they knocked me out to go into surgery. But I mean, starting in the morning, where we do live far away, so I have quite a drive, and so got up around 3:45 after my third alarm went off, and got up, hopped in the shower, got dressed to go to the PD, kissed Maddie goodbye, and drove to work. Sometimes you can feel that a day is going to be weird. It wasn't one of those days. I knew Andrew had training for a couple hours that day. I knew I was going to be on my own for a little bit to work on catching up on videos or policies or whatever I was going to do that day. And that day didn't feel any different going into work. It didn't feel like a full moon or like something weird was going to happen. And so we go through briefing. One thing that we talk about in the PD is recruits always have a fun fact for the day, and I was ridiculed for my fun fact that day. It was bad. They didn't make me do another one, but it was not a good fact. They were upset with me. And so we go through briefing, I do my fun fact, and we start our day. Andrew and I had a few calls that morning that I think we had a shoplifting that, they ended up leaving. We didn't know how much they stole, so we didn't do a whole lot with it. A few public assists, and, just not a whole lot that morning. Andrew left for training. I grabbed a lunch, and, I was working on a different call throughout the day that, I had worked that call before, and so I was just, I was helping the same person out and just trying to work through it with them. And then we, kind of get to the end of it. Andrew looks over some of my reports, and, we're going through that. The call before the, crash was another shoplifting. There wasn't a whole lot we could do at the moment. And so we cleared from that, waited for them to get more information, and dispatch had sent us this call. And it came out as an injury accident, 900 block, 25th Street South. Busy area. If you drive in Fargo, 25th Street is always busy, especially at that time. And so we get over there quickly, but not too quickly. Fire's on scene. They're doing traffic control. We're doing traffic control, and we, go and talk with Carly and talk with the other individuals in the other car that, one of them also was a little banged up. And so we made sure everyone was okay, got them medical attention if they wanted it, and started collecting information. And on scene, one thing I was told in training is, if you think you need help, ask for help. And so I'd called for a second officer. Just road was busy, needed traffic control so I could kind of handle the rest of it. So dispatch sends Jake and Zach, and they get on scene. Talking to Jake, I knew Jake pretty well. We went through the academy together. And first thing he asked me is, "What do you need?" And it's something we always ask each other, but it's something that it shows with Jake, where he really wants to help you. And so I told him, I need witness statements. Zach's gonna do traffic control. We're gonna finish this up, get out of here, go home. As I'm telling him this, we're kind of standing there on the sidewalk, and Zach had called out to Andrew, and so I had turned with Andrew to hear what Zach was trying to say, if he was going to ask us if he wanted the car somewhere else or where to move the car. And as we both turned and we're kind of looking back behind us, that's when it comes out. That's when we hear it. And, shots are being fired. And as this happens, I'm hit. I start to turn, I fall. I look down at my right arm, and my right arm's broken. I don't know how else I'm injured, but I know it's bad because I can't walk. And I still have my earpiece in while this is all going on. So, I'm hearing Zach's radio coming through. I hear shots fired, 3 officers down. Send everybody. And I hear all of it. And I turn around and I see Andrew, and he's in tough shape. So I go and comfort my buddy, make sure we're good. And nothing I did that day is heroic. Everything I did that day was my job. It was my job to make sure Andrew was okay. It was my job to be there at that instant, that time. What Jake did was heroic. He fired a shot. He tried to bring the fight to the guy. And he distracted him long enough for Zach to get shots on. So when that happened, guys start to get on scene, shooters down. At that point, it goes from end the threat to, help, get medical there. Fire guys are already running. They're already trying to get to us. And, thankfully, they were not very far away, and they got to us as soon as they could. So I'm laying there, I tell them, they need to get Andrew out of here. I was talking, I was breathing, I was okay. And, that just kind of goes to the training that we have of, if you can breathe and you can talk, things are good. We're okay. And so we get through that, and medical, guys from downtown are coming to help me. Everyone is on scene at that point. And my buddy grabs my phone and he makes the call to Maddie, and I'm very thankful that he did because she was so far away. It's a 2-hour drive for us. And, I'm seeing everybody. Everyone's working on me, and we get into the ambulance. And my poor paramedic, I felt so bad for the guy because he couldn't find a vein to get me an IV. And he felt terrible. He's like, sorry, man. I'm like, no, we're good. Just get me there. And so one of the other officers is with me, and, we share the same first name. And I remember him asking me, oh, what's his name? I go, we share the same one. He goes, oh, what's that? I go, Tyler? Mm-hmm. And it was more of a question. It was starting to, at that point, I was kind of going in and out, but, everything was still pretty stable. We get into the hospital, and, they, adrenaline works. I can say that. It works really well because I was calmer than most people. And they pull me out of the ambulance, and, there's a lot of dumb things I said and a lot of funny things I said. But, I remember being brought into the trauma room, and a couple of the trainers that I had, because I'd worked a different shift and that shift was coming on, and it was the same day that I was working the same shift, and they had come over to me and just told me hey, it's going to be okay. We'll be good. And it meant a lot to me that they cared enough to come and tell me that. And I knew I was going to be okay. We have the training to make me okay. We had the people to get me there. And, we weren't lucky to be shot, but we were lucky with the circumstances surrounding it, where there were 2 trauma rooms open with fully staffed rooms. That it shouldn't have been. It's Sanford, it's a level 1 trauma. They're the best in the region. There were 2, just enough for Andrew and I. 2 fully staffed teams ready to help. And they did. Stopped the bleeding, stabilized us, got us through, and Maddie had talked about how I had cracked a joke going up the elevator. My surgeon thought it was a joke. It wasn't a joke. I had looked at her and I go, just make sure I wake up warm. She goes, wake up warm? What do you mean? I go, I just don't want to be cold. And in my mind, I was saying, let me wake up alive. In her mind, it was put a blanket on me. And she thought it was the funniest thing in the world, because like going up to the OR, gunshot victim, took enough rounds to make it hurt. She thought it was just great. And you know, it's one of those things that being calm in the chaos is kind of in the job description, where we have to, like, we deal with it all the time. We're comfortable in it. It's what we know. And it's all I knew. I couldn't freak out. If I was going to freak out, things would get worse. So I had to be calm for everyone else. I had to be calm to make sure that they could do their jobs. And they did. And I am forever thankful that I had the people around me that I did that day. You know, I had everyone that I needed that day by my side. And they continued to be there, and they showed that day in and day out. And I'm very proud to be a part of FPD. At least for me, being there for Andrew when he got released was, it was important for me because we had gone through this together, you know, I know we had a conversation before, you know, when he found out. He's like, yeah, I'm going home. And, you know, it was important for me to hear it from him. I know. It was important for him to tell me. And I was ecstatic for him. I was so happy that he was getting to go home. You know, that's the goal. We don't want to live in the hospital the whole time. We want to go home. We want to go to our own bed. And being able to do that and heal at home, and to get to the point where he was able to, I was so proud. It meant everything for me to be able to be down there for him and support him. I couldn't imagine just sitting in my room while that happened. I wouldn't be a good partner. I wouldn't be a good recruit if that's what I was doing. You know, that's who we are. We support each other. And to be there for him was awesome. And for him to be there for me was amazing. You know, I got to see my buddy one more time. And you know, every time I saw him, everyone that knows Andrew, hey brother, how's it going? You know, man, it's going. You know, and it's everyone. You know, every time I saw him, it was always the same smile, same thing. And you know, I cherish those times that I got to see him and got to spend time with him. And being able to see him at the end of the tunnel of people, just standing there, just waiting for me. You know, I know he was still in a wheelchair at that point, but you know, he put the brakes on and he stood up, and you know, he was there for me one more time. And it meant the world to me that he could see me off. You know, the people that were there and the people that just supported from afar, it was incredible how much support we truly got. You know, getting off that elevator, I didn't really know what to expect. I expected the PD to be there. I expected, you know, a lot of those guys and some of the hospital staff, but just the amount of people that were there and the support that we got, there's no other words but thank you. It's amazing that people still care that much. and we're very thankful for it.
Leaving the hospital room and making our way towards the elevator and then down the elevator, and then once those doors opened, it was definitely like the calm before the storm. Like Ty had mentioned, I had no idea what to really expect. We had been there for Andrew's release, which was just amazing to see the outpour of support from everybody, the community, the hospital staff, the PD, friends and family, and then even everybody reaching out online who couldn't be there in person but are still supporting. Yeah, we didn't know what to expect, and there's truly no words to describe how much the support means to the two of us, as well as our families. And it's a lot to take in. There was a lot of excitement, but a lot of nervousness with going home. I was really excited to sleep in my own bed finally. I'm sure Tyler felt the same way. But you grow so close when you go through such a traumatic event, and then while you're in the hospital for so many days, 24 days, that's a long time. I think I was more sad about leaving these people that we had grown so close to. The hospital staff, the PD, everybody who came by to visit, drop off some coffee. Leaving all of that was the hard part. It wasn't so much as nervousness about being home, but I was sad to leave everyone because we had created such a bond during that whole ordeal, through that whole time being there. When Tyler and Andrew had that moment, the day of discharge, I stepped back for a moment. Not only so they could have their moment together, but also so I could take it all in and take a deep breath and remember it. Those two grew really close. They've created quite a bond, quite a friendship. And I know it's one that they'll cherish forever.
I would say thank you. Thank you for supporting me. Everyone that pulled security outside my door, that would come in for an hour or two just to talk with me. Those guys and girls played a huge role in how I went through everything. And, the little things mattered a lot to me, where, it wasn't just those guys watching for danger or making sure that we were okay. It was, going over to the family room and saying hi to them, putting the, 7th of 9 puzzles together with them. Making sure Maddie had everything that she needed, where, guys would come in and drop something off for Maddie that, it wasn't just about me. They knew that. They know that this is a partnership. It's not just me going off to work. It's not just us, going into the danger. It's, what happens after. We go home. We go home like everyone else does after the day. And, they have to face it just as much as we do, where, we may not talk about it much, but there's effects to what we do. It's a tough job. The things we see are tough to unsee. And, the conversations that we have to have with people are very difficult. And spouses, partners, and families often take the brunt end of that, where it's hard to handle it, but it's even harder without knowing, what's going on. And so, the guys that, have the partnership or understand, like, it's important to support the spouse just as much as it is to support, the one that's serving. And, they took time to do that, to take care of my family, take care of Andrew's family, take care of my wife. And, the surgeons were phenomenal. They did some unconventional things, and they, paid off in the end. But they always told me what was going on. I always had an answer when I needed it. And I could always tell that they cared, that this case was a little bit deeper for them. And I was floored by the amount of support that we were getting from everybody. I know I had a kitchen worker who, she saw my badge one day because they had brought it in to me to have for Jake's funeral. And it was just sitting on my little table next to me, and she walks in with my breakfast, drops it off. She sees it and she goes, "Oh, were you one of them?" I go, "Yep, I was." She goes, "Oh, I'll be right back." And she goes down to the gift shop, I think, and grabs a little card and writes a thank you card to me. And, we didn't expect anything from this. Andrew, Zach, and I all see it the same way. We did our jobs that day. We don't go into the job expecting thank yous, and it's not why we do it. We don't like to be the center of attention. We do it to help people and to make a difference, and just to do the job, because outside of this, generally the job's pretty fun. Drive around with lights and sirens, and wear a shiny badge, and go do things with your best friends. And that's what they become. They become your best friends. They become your family. They become your brothers and sisters. And over time, you forget that, but stuff like this brings us together, and it shows that it's not just the PD family. It's the Fargo family, where we all work together and we all make this community better by doing what we do. And I'm beyond grateful to have had that support from staff, and having members of other departments holding security for me, and getting to know some of those guys, and getting to hear some of the stories about their days when that happened, whether they were working or whether they were off, when they heard it happen, when they saw it on the MDC. And hearing some of those stories, it touches your heart, where everyone in that community knows where they were. Everyone knows just the fear of what that brought to them, and ultimately the relief of when it was done, and knowing that everyone was safe. And for the most part, it was over. And it was always very helpful to have someone, because when I went into surgery, the guys would still scrub up and come in. Every surgery they walked in, they wore this white disposable scrub, and I'd wake up in the recovery room and they were standing right next to me, making sure I was okay. They never left my side. And I know for me, it was helpful to have someone there all the time. And we ended up having a guest book, is what we called it, of people that when they would visit, they would sign it, write something in there. And I know a few of the guys have talked to me about it, and they asked me, "Oh, did you see what I wrote?" Yeah, I did. It was pretty funny. And just having that support from them was awesome. And I can't say thank you enough for it, but thank you.
Saying thank you just isn't enough. The support from everybody truly means the world to the two of us, as well as our families and friends. hearing the stories from everyone who would come to visit or pull the security detail, or just people that we've met since leaving the hospital or since the incident, it truly puts into perspective how many lives were touched that day. And just knowing what they did, it changed everybody's lives.
So for us, going home was kind of in phases. So when I left the hospital, we stayed with one of Maddie's grandparents, and she was in the medical field. She helped out a lot with that side of it, and so leaving the hospital wasn't really going home yet, and it was still awesome to be able to not sleep in a bed that blows up whenever you move and changes. But it was still tough. It was tough to know that I'm not home yet. I'm not in my own bed. I couldn't sleep in a bed for a while, and just going through that process I was comfortable, but when I finally got to our home, when I finally got here, words can't describe it. It was amazing. The comfort that I felt, the gratitude I felt for all the work that we had put into this. It was just, we were home.
One of the more challenging parts from this whole thing is knowing that things will never be the same, but finding that new normal. And by going home, that's step one. So it was an amazing breath of fresh air to get back into a routine, find that new normal, and just start to move on.
So I was in the hospital for 24 days. We were at grandma's for just about a month. And so we were away from our home for roughly 7 weeks. I'd say almost 2 months we were gone. So it was 2 months that we didn't, get to be here. And, one thing I want to add with that is, I'm very grateful for, the Fergus Falls Police Department. They had reached out almost instantly after this happened and had told us, like, hey, we know you live here. We will take care of it. You guys don't need to worry. We didn't know everything that was going on with the incident. We didn't know if it was, directed at us or what it ended up being. And so they did more patrol around our home. The guys would come by and they would mow our yard, and they took care of our house. And, I'm very thankful for that. I got to meet one of their patrol supervisors a couple of weeks ago down in St. Paul for the Minnesota Peace Officer Association Gala. I got to meet those guys, and, he was a great guy. It was great to meet someone and finally put a face to a name of, who was taking care of my house and my family when I was gone. And moving forward from the incident it's difficult. Finding a new normal is, something that you have to do, and something that drives me is just, if I stop, what happens? I'm at every job irreplaceable, where at the PD they'll find another guy, but what we do, it matters. I love what I do. I can't wait to get back to the streets, and that's part of it. Is I want to get back out there. And, another part of it is just, I don't want to stop. I don't want to put my life on hold any longer than I already have. I don't want to stop because if I stop, then what's going to happen, What am I going to do besides this? I love this job. I love it every day. There wasn't a day I went into work that I was upset that I was there. The shooting sucked. It was not super fun, but it's important to know what you want to do in life. And, being a cop isn't always what I wanted to be, but it's what I was meant to be. And getting back to the job pushes me to move forward. Getting healthy to keep supporting my family pushes me to move forward. Taking care of my wife, taking care of her family, helping out with stuff, just going to games. I remember the first game I went to for, Maddie's sister for volleyball. And it was weird because you could tell everyone was, just locked in to me. But, that pushed me to, I don't want to sit on a lawn chair the whole time that I'm there. I want to be able to walk and move, and I want to be able to do things. My life will never be the same, and I will never be the same person that I was the day of the shooting. But you could either, let that hinder you, or you could, take it for what it is, just an experience that happened. It's a horrible experience, and it's something that you never want to happen. But if you look at it as a blessing of, I'm very close with Andrew now. We've become very good friends. I've gotten to know guys at the police department that I never really would have met. It's, I've gotten to know medics and firefighters and doctors and physical therapists, occupational therapists, psych people at the hospital, nurses, and, a lot of friendships I never would have had. A lot of people that were affected by this. All of that support drives me to get better. And just wanting to be one step closer to normal as you can be after something like this is really what pushes me. Just wanting to be as good as I can be. I want people to know that I'm thankful. I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful that I can do this. I want people to be grateful for what they have in their life. It's difficult. It's difficult to climb back up. It's difficult to do things every day. No one loves their job all the time. No one loves going to school all the time. But being grateful for who you have. And, when someone asks me how I'm doing, I'm still walking on 2 feet. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful every day that I get to do that. I want people to understand that it's a blessing to keep doing that. It's a blessing to have someone by your side. It's a blessing to have support from the community. And it's a blessing that we have people that still stand up for what's right and what's good in the world.